I'm really delighted to welcome you to this, our second annual Cinema in the Cities discussion here at the Cannes Film Festival. I'm going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of a little bit of survey data that just sets the scene before I introduce my esteemed panelists. And I am delighted that I'm able to welcome Lisa from France 24, Nick from Variety, and Stuart from the British Film Institute. A point in time when home technologies and home entertainments and all of us have more screens than ever. People are still physically going to the cinema, more than sort of almost 50% once a month, and a quarter of those 3,000 people we spoke to once a week. So it really is showing that this is still a phenomenally important way for people to entertain and experience new things. This is the hot topic, I think, of Cannes this year, of Cannes 2017. Where do you enjoy to watch a movie? Still number one in a cinema. And I think part of the conversation we're going to have today is a little bit about, will that still remain? Should that still remain the number one place with the rise of technology and innovation? I personally am looking forward to diving a little bit more into that whole phenomena of outdoor and experiential as well, to really bring the memory of the film to life. And then in terms of being future-gazing and looking ahead for the next 10 years, where do you see yourself when you're watching a movie? And I think the interesting thing is that 26% look at classic cinema experience. So that's only just over a quarter of those respondents think that cinema today will be the same in 10 years. People do, around the same number, think of that experiential journey that we're on. Still, surprisingly, into a relief for Pedro Almodovar and his gang, at home with a virtual reality headset still doesn't really tip the balance. But the interesting piece, with nearly 65% of respondents said that it will be that multiplex experience, that special effects, that high-tech environment that's going to be the place where we enjoy cinema going forward.
Well, personally speaking, and I guess professionally as well, there's nothing like experiencing a film in the way that the filmmakers have designed it. So they're using the apparatus of cinema, the sound design, the dimensions of the screen, whatever kind of film it is. They've obviously made lots of artistic decisions about the tone and the kind of movement and the camera and the shot, and I think that only truly translates when you're in the environment it's designed for. And just to be clear, I'm not against VOD platforms or TV viewing. I kind of program a VOD platform myself, so I think they all have their place. And the Pedro comments are interesting because he's specifically referring to film festivals, I think, which is a slightly, probably everyone in here knows, but it's a slightly specific kind of viewing and a construct in the industry. But in general, I think to watch real films, real cinema, you have to be in a cinema.
And then beyond that, undoubtedly, the IMAX experience and 3D, although 3D has showed, sort of, it's kind of something that, the bubble has kind of burst on 3D, but, possibly 3D. And, of course, going forward, the virtual reality, which is a big question mark. Nobody really knows yet, what that will bring. But those are all aspects of new technology that I think, will contribute. I mean, with virtual reality, we really don't know whether that's going to take place in an actual cinema or in the home. So, but IMAX, again, Rome, the city I live in, does not have an IMAX. I think it's been proven that, those kinds of venues are good for reinforcing, for attracting, especially a younger demographic into movie theaters.
Some of my favorite life memories are of, going to a freestanding, enormous, what we call atmospheric cinema, which is designed to look like a Moorish palace or a castle in Spain or what have you. And as you say, I mean, they used to have the curtains, the velvet curtains would actually open up, and you were in a mindset for entertainment, but you also didn't know whether you thought you were just going to see a movie and you had a life-changing experience because you were convinced you knew the characters, and if something bad happened to them, you felt terrible for them, or you wanted to reach out and help them. I think it's harder to have that experience on a cell phone or on a computer or on an airplane, although since there's nothing else to do on an airplane, sometimes you can get very caught up in things. One of my favorite film reviews of all time was the movie was so bad I got up and left, and I was on an airplane. So,
Everything is linked together, so the kind of the impact of digital technologies on culture has shifted the way that people think about culture and how they consume culture. I think there's something really interesting in the arrival of the idea of the I concept, so your iPhone or your iPad or your iTunes kind of changed. The idea of broadcast was disintegrated, and then the idea that people curate their own cultural experience, whether that's, I don't think people buy music albums anymore, they might buy individual tracks and they curate their own playlists and that kind of thing. That's a very interior and introspective process because it's all about empowering the I to have my own thing. I think at the same time what happened was a kind of explosion of festival going. So festivals became, they sort of replaced the economy within the music industry anyway. So all of the acts now get paid for performing live instead of shifting units on album sales and things. And so it's kind of interesting to me because if you think about what's happening there, it's quite an interior process that the digital technology enabled, but people still want to share it. They still want to come together and they want to have that kind of, there's something about the magic of cinema and music festivals and arts festivals that's a communal thing. You know, we were saying earlier, one of the things I love the most is you go and see a movie in a packed movie theatre and it's on your way out and you're talking to your friend or partner or you've been with, but you're hearing other people speak about it, and then you hang out in the bar, and that for me, that's the kind of, that's the thing that brings things to life. And obviously being in Cannes is the kind of uber example of that, because you spend all day, every day wandering around the place, chatting to other people about the films you've seen. So I think if that's something that's kind of happening globally as a big kind of shift, what that means is there are thousands of people coming together, and that creates the environment where people like Secret Cinema can kind of exploit that environment to create really, really unique things.
I have nothing against seeing a movie on a smaller screen or, but I think what's important is that the reason why you can see a movie on a smaller screen, it'll never be the same experience as seeing it on a big screen. But the reason why you do it is A, because you won't have access to the same movie, but also because you've had that experience of seeing it in a beautiful screen, and you reference that in your mind. You kind of go back to that, and that's part of the experience. If you take away the theatrical experience, then I'm afraid that what happens is you basically kill cinema, because cinema was born for the big screen.
I think it's important to pave a space in your brain for things you don't fully understand yet. So just because of the film-going landscape in Chicago when I was 12, 13, 14, I could get on my bicycle and ride to a cinema that was a few blocks away with my girlfriends, and we would go and see for $2 a double feature of a film by François Truffaut and one by Ingmar Bergman. We weren't old enough to see either of those movies. They had subtitles. We didn't mind. We got our popcorn. We watched them. We had attention spans. We watched a double feature. I had no idea what was going on. But when I was old enough to see those films again, I was not frightened of them.
I don't think cinema needs a salvation personally. When television was invented, there was I think everybody was like, oh, it's the death of cinema. And then when home video was invented, everyone was like, oh, cinema's going to die. And then it was DVD, and now it's video on demand. I think cinema endures because of all the things we've said. There's a kind of, there's a great Arthur C. Clarke quote that I can't remember now, but it's something to do with technology. The best technologies are magic or something. And there's something about cinema which just is magic. It's to do with projected light, and it's to do with scale and sound. And I think cinema will endure in that format forever.
I think to sum up, the one thing that we've seen from this is that whatever the future holds, around the world and right here in Cannes, people's passion for cinema really isn't going anywhere. It's a society that is really valuing those experiences so much more than things. So please join me in thanking our panel. Please enjoy the rest of your festival, and we look forward to continuing this conversation with you at other festivals and in priceless cities around the world. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.